Hey everyone, this is Yosef Adest of 52 Frames, here with a quick breakdown of this photographic term, leading lines. Well, what is leading lines? Well, leading lines are any lines that are coming into your frame that draw the viewer's eye into a particular subject or into your scene in general. The best usage of leading lines are usually from the corner of the frame like we see here, but they can really come in from any angle. And in this shot, which was submitted by Andrea Williams for Lines Week of last year, I see many leading lines. Take a moment and look at the photo. How many leading lines do you see? Well, actually, this too is a leading line, this beam of wood here. And this beam of wood would also be a leading line. This here is a leading line. All of this would be one big leading line, this flower pot holder thing, even the siding of this house. And while we're at it, almost this entire composition is designed to bring your attention to the subject, and Andrea would not have been able to get this shot without getting low. Paying attention to lines on the floor and getting low is a really great way to get leading lines in your shot and create immediate interest. Let's look at some other 52 Frames photos and see different examples of leading lines. This photo by Barry Nirenberg has one leading line coming in directly from the corner, which is the ideal placement for a leading line. Here's another, what I would argue is one leading line coming in from the top left corner, which honestly, if it came in the middle of the frame, I don't think it would be as interesting. This beauty was submitted by Candace Shemp, by the way, for our paper challenge last year. Here's another great example of a leading line coming in from the bottom left corner here, and it literally draws your eyes into the center to the brightest part of the image. This lovely shot submitted by Annette Dechow for Black and White Challenge of last year. Here we see an example of two leading lines. Again, an argument could be made that there's actually three or more, but what I see is two distinct leading lines coming in from the two bottom corners of the frame. This one submitted by Yolanda Goossens for Falling, and honestly, if Yolanda hadn't gotten this low, I don't think the composition would have been as interesting as it is. This one is submitted by Maris Ellers last year, and this is a gorgeous example of leading lines that are not necessarily coming from the corner, but are bringing you into the scene nonetheless. And here's another very clear example by Marcel van de Bos for Looking Into the Frame challenge, where we're clearly seeing four lines bringing our attention to our subject. Let's take a look at some interesting examples from TV and film from the last few years. These are some shots from a great show called Better Call Saul that has amazing cinematography. And in this example, you wouldn't necessarily identify any lines in this picture, but there's some clear compositional depth that again is directing you towards the subject. Another beautiful visual from Better Call Saul. Again, it's not an obvious leading line, but this couch is coming directly from the bottom left corner and is subconsciously drawing the viewer's eye into the brighter part of the image where our subject is. As an extra credit, we're seeing some other leading lines here coming in from the corner and from the side that will also help with this look. Shadows is a very cool way of creating leading lines that are not obvious to a scene. And again, getting low will usually yield you some beautiful leading lines. And might I add, it doesn't have to always bring you directly to the subject. Leading lines can just serve to bring interest to a shot. Let me show you a quick few examples from cinema that we can clearly see this compositional nugget being put to use. Okay, The Matrix is an obvious one for cinematography goodness. You remember this scene where these beautiful perspective lines come flying into the scene. This one is a super interesting angle, and what you may not realize is this building is creating some beautiful leading lines and depth that again is bringing the viewer's eye into the action of where they want you to look. You could probably pause many frames in this movie and start to analyze all the compositional symmetry, lines, intention, balance, and it's really nice to take pause sometimes and see that, gosh, cinematographers really do put their thought into this. Well, here's an interesting one that if you're a Matrix fan, you'll recognize instantly. Well, this creates a very non-traditional leading line here, but the point of the gun is actually going out of frame, perfectly placed towards the top left part of the screen. That again is bringing the viewer's interest right into the scene. I can go on, but just know that this movie, or movies I should say, give us some great examples of leading lines. Once your eyes are open to it, you'll start seeing lines in all of your favorite movies, and you can start to take notice of the beautiful symmetry that these lines create in a scene. Even when it's seemingly benign or not obvious, lines in a scene will immediately create dramatic interest to the viewer. And lastly, I just wanted to point out another non-obvious leading line where you don't see any lines in this scene, but simply getting low and getting a wide perspective does create a visual leading line, both with this van, this motorcycle, and the faint lines that we see in the middle of the street. Keeping this technique in mind every time you shoot will help your compositions, even when there's no obvious lines in front of you. Alright guys, I hope this breakdown helped you. If you haven't already, feel free to check out 52frames.com to join our free weekly photography challenge. And in the meantime, happy shooting.